Well, that's what I said. Yeah, I finished my glass of ratafia, put my phone in my reticule, and I told him he was being a popinjay. You've read too many historical romances again. You were in a perfectly lovely conversation with a friend when all of a sudden you started talking like someone from the Regency era. But now there's help with Historialese. With Historialese, you'll begin feeling like a 21st century human again, which I guess is preferable. People will understand you. You'll be less prone to swooning and sighing, and you'll stop comparing every man you meet to Mr. Darcy. Do not take Historialese if you read more than 2 historical romances per week. Historialese is not meant to treat people who read Highlander romance. Common side effects include actively reading magazines, brochures, Cheesecake Factory menus, or dark romance. Serious side effects may include switching to nonfiction and sounding really pleased with yourself that you don't read romance anymore. So stop sounding like someone who's looking for their Duke and start taking Historialese. Thanks, Historialese. Hi, my name's Bea and welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and just amuse herself at this point. Hey there, and welcome to this potentially disjointed wrap-up of the month of May. I say that because my 3-year-old is currently sleeping. I'm trying to film this before she wakes up. My 2 boys are playing downstairs. Before I run out of time, let's talk about the stats for the month of May. I read 7 historical romances, 3 contemporary romances. 1 was a YA romance, but I'll be talking about it later because it's for my Try a Chapter Challenge of YA romance. That video is probably coming out later this month or maybe next month. It's my Disney World reading vlog. It was like almost 2 hours long. So I gotta edit it to within an inch of its life. It's taking a while. So anyway, I don't want to give away which book I chose. So moving on. I read 3 fantasy romances. Of course, they were all alien, and 1 paranormal romance for a total of 15 books if you count that YA. Of the 15, 6 of them were new releases, and also I DNF'd 2, which I will talk about in another video. I read 5 new to me authors such as Minerva Spencer, Laura Lee Gerke, Julia Quinn, Julie Soto, and Kate Bateman. Kate Bateman, by the way, I also learned is Casey Bateman. The amount of feedback I got from you guys about her, I'm even more excited. And let's look at the gorgeous cover one more time. I finally got it. I'm so excited. This is a slim one too. It's only 120 pages. Cranking that one out in August. But back to May. I have a graphic here. This might be the ugliest graphic ever. In the month of May, I read 1 6-star romance. I read 2 5-star romances. I read 4 4.5-star romances, 2 4-star romances, 1 3.5-star romance, 3 3-star romances, and 1 2.5-star romance. I don't know if I love that. I might do it differently next month. So let's start with the cream of the crop, Happy Place. This book is perfect for the summer. It's about 6 friends. They've been friends forever, and they go to a cottage in Maine every summer, but this is the last summer. 2 of them are going to be getting married, and so the rest of them have come together to celebrate the wedding of 2 of their best friends. The problem is our main character, Harriet, and her boyfriend, Wynne, have broken up. Nobody else knows. And so now Wynne and Harriet have to pretend to still be engaged in order to pull off this week and make it special for everybody else. But Harriet's not even sure how she can do it. This book is written in 2 timelines. We get to see the progression of their last week, their last summer as untethered, youngish adults. And then the other timeline is the progression of the relationship between Harriet and Wynne, which, oh my gosh, chemistry galore. I had to remind myself to breathe. The slow burn was so yummy. The reason this bumped up to a 6-star for me is because 1, Emily Henry does a gorgeous job of really fleshing out basically all of the characters. They felt real. And I loved how she explored not just romantic love. In order to really love people that we love, we need to allow them to grow and change. And also we need to reflect on our own selves and see, are we living our lives to our fullest, or are we keeping ourselves back for other people? It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. I loved the meditations on life and love in this book. My first of 2 5-star romances, A Night to Surrender. It's book 1 of Spindle Cove by Tessa Dare. I got to talk about this book at length with my gals in the Tessa Dare summer. This book had it all. Beautiful seaside setting, which is great for summer. You've got a cast of quirky but super lovable characters, and these women that have been relegated to the back shelf of society. Nobody knows what to do with them, so they are just off in this little ladies' retreat. This place gives them a chance to truly be themselves. But here comes the spice, guys. We've got Bram. He is the reluctant leader of a militia. There are a few men in Spindle Cove to start, and the ones that are around are odd. But Bram has to lead them along with two of his other friends who, swoon alert, I mean, you'll see them later in the Spindle Cove series. I loved how the head of the girls, Susanna Finch, and Bram, who's the head of the militia, they start butting heads. And then sparks start flying. The chemistry was just off the charts. And it was also really funny. I found myself laughing so many times. There's also some harrowing scenes towards the end. I really appreciated how deep this was. Just great Tessa Dare. Okay, so now we have to talk about my other 5-star, Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. We have Bee. She is a quirky heroine. This is set at NASA, where she's going to be working as the neuroscientist against an engineer who was her former arch nemesis named Levi. And Ali Hazelwood has spared no expense in making him the quintessential perfect hero. I mean, he has it all. The enemies to lovers in this is absolutely top notch. I would have given this 6 stars, but B at certain points was just so knuckleheaded. It's like, girl, he likes you. And then the other part was, as I sometimes complain, the spice did cross over into ick territory just a smidge for me, but I made it through. It's a hard life, right? There was danger, there was mystery, there was a lot of humor, really lovable, quirky characters. I can't recommend this highly enough. So here's another one where it's 4.5 stars. I would have given it 5, but it did again crossed over into slightly like, whoa, territory in terms of spice. It's the most spicy historical romance I've ever read. This is by Minerva Spencer. I was blown away by the writing. It was really gorgeously done. It made me want to read the entire Women of Whitechapel series. This one specifically is a second chance romance. We have Cecile, she and Guy had a thing. He couldn't be with her though because he needed to marry someone who had money. And unfortunately that was not her. So he realizes the mistake that he made and he spends half of the book groveling. So first class groveling if you're into that. Read it if you like a little extra spice, some history, some great writing. My other 4.5 star, Grim and Barrett by Julia Cross. This was book 6 in the Stay Spell series. So sad that it's over. However, the author does say that, I heard her. I'm gonna see if I can get through this one and then we'll come back later. The author does say that it may not be over, so that's exciting. I would have given this a perfect 5 stars, but it was not as sweet and whimsical as I was hoping.
Mommy, morning time.
Is it morning time? Okay, I'm coming back later.
Yeah.
A few minutes later. Okay, everybody's snuggled under blankets, eating their pre-breakfast fruit, playing, reading, and watching what else? Paw Patrol. I'm giving myself a few more minutes before I have to start getting the boys ready for school. Good news is I had a chance to make some tea, so that's nice. Back to the point that I was attempting to make. Grim and Barrett. One of the things I love about Clara, and the reason I was looking forward to this book so much is because I found her to be so endearing, so charming, so whimsical. And I felt like for the first half of the book, she just kept being like, I'm not whimsical. And I was like, oh man. The only other reason I didn't give it a full 5 stars is because I needed more sweet and less spicy in my love scenes. I know. I'm always complaining about how Juliet Cross is a little too spicy for me. Am I gonna stop reading her? No. But it's always just like a little bit much. Anyway, that being said, this was a fabulous book. At the midway point, like with some of her other books, it really picked up for me. I couldn't get over what happened, but especially like once the big thing that happened was resolved, seeing these characters together and just how much they love each other. I cried probably through the last like 10 to 15% of the book. It was just so beautiful seeing everyone together and so happy. I loved seeing Henry and Clara finally come together. Finally. Talk about your slow burn, right? I mean, this arc's been going on for books and books. I thought it was exciting. I loved the mysterious element to it. I loved really getting to know Henry. I don't read much paranormal, as you may know, so it was kind of fun jumping back into that paranormal world and seeing how people navigate their powers, especially Henry, who is a Grimm, and he does not want to have the powers that he has. So, he's hidden them away, and certain events help him to embrace his true full self, which of course is due entirely to the love that he has for Clara. If you enjoy paranormal romance, you have to read it, and then you have to keep your fingers crossed that there's going to be more. So one of my other 4.5 stars is A Week to Be Wicked, which is book 2 in the Spindle Cove series. We have Colin, who, if you remember from the live stream, that was pretty much all we wanted to talk about. This guy's got this bravado. I mean, It's hard not to think about Colin. He is our hero in A Week to Be Wicked with the fabulous Minerva. They tease one another quite a bit. I think she's discovered dinosaurs and she wants to share this finding and she wants Colin to take her to Scotland for this big meeting. It is such a fun road trip romance. Of course there is steam and spice. Of course there is hilarity. I had the best time reading this book. This one I haven't talked about yet on my channel at all. I'm so excited about this. I'm going down in history right now. I can say later, yes, I said it. This book's gonna be a movie. I'm telling you. Right now, I'm calling it. I've never said that before on my channel. I've been around a year. This is called Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. I didn't think I was gonna like this book. I started out thinking, I don't really like these characters. She just does flings. She's not really interested in love. And then we've got this guy who is grumpy. I don't really like grumpy sunshine. I don't really like the gruff guys. I like a good alpha mallow. I like a good cinnamon roll hero. However, as the book goes on, you start to root for these people. It was so good. It was so steamy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me, all right. So she is a wedding planner. Her mother's been married like a million times, so she knows everything about weddings. She's gonna be doing the biggest wedding of her career. It's for a YouTube star, and she's only had her own business for like 3 years, and she's been sort of struggling. She's come out from under the wings of a woman who is not well liked, and you kind of wonder, like, is this a villain? Is she really nice, or is she her frenemy? The woman that owns the big wedding business in all of Sacramento, basically. This is set in California. If you like wedding planning books, this is absolutely the book for you because there was so much about wedding planning. This is set in 2 different timelines. So we've got our girl telling the present day where she's planning this big wedding, the biggest wedding of her career. Is it going to get pulled off? The other timeline is told from the perspective of her guy, or her ex, I should say. Now he is a florist and he's a big florist. He does a lot of weddings. He's primarily telling the story of how they met and fell in love, but they are enemies right now. They have to work together on this huge wedding because this is really big for both of their careers. I had the time of my life with this book. It was actually recommended. They actually sent me this book and said, hey, we know you like Abby Jimenez. We know you like Allie Hazelwood. How about it? I thought, okay, cool. I could read yet another arc. Right? As I said, initially I was like, oh brother, what did I get myself into? I don't like these people at all. But as you get to know them, it was so good. I loved seeing the relationship develop. I loved figuring out exactly how he felt and how deeply he felt. Oh my gosh, it was so good. That guy carries a torch. And then also seeing what was going to happen with this wedding and whether or not her former boss was an enemy or not. It was so much fun. So yes, I highly recommend it. It's one of the millions of books that are coming out on July 11th. I'm going to be doing so many 3-minute reviews around that time. You just wait. This was maybe my favorite of the books that's coming out July 11th. A few hours later. When I said this was going to be disjointed, I wasn't kidding. As I'm filming this, the air quality is terrible because of the wildfires in Canada coming south. So I needed to have something to do with my gal, and she asked if we could go to Grandma's. So I said yes. So we're hanging out with Grandma right now. And then I said, hey, Grandma, can I spend a couple minutes recording? And she said, sure. So, and here we are in her dining room. So please enjoy the collection of teapots. So let's talk about another book that I haven't talked about yet on my channel at all. Bookshop Cinderella by Laura Lee Gerke. It's book 1 of the Scandal at the Savoy series. Do you like Breakfast at Tiffany's, Pretty Woman, She's All That? If so, I have a feeling you're going to love this book, especially if you also enjoy historical romances. We have a gal named Evie. She owns her own bookshop in London, and one day she crossed paths with a duke. He fancies her, but the other men in his group think she's rather plain. Well, he says, no, she could steal a guy's heart. And they say, no, she couldn't. So he makes a bet with these guys that he can take this little plain girl and turn her into the belle of the ball. It was so much fun. He winds up moving her into the Savoy, which is like the fancy schmancy hotel in London. He gets her all the most gorgeous clothes, which, oh my gosh, the clothes. If you enjoy clothing descriptions in books, this is so for you. It was so much fun watching her get to enjoy the finer things in life while he slowly falls in love with her. There was also something that happens while they're sort of will they, won't they. Something turned in the plot that I did not expect that had my jaw dropping and wondering what was going to happen with this particular character. Can you hear they're playing right now? They're playing hide and seek. This is half wrap up, half day in the life. I'm so sorry. I hope you don't mind. The reason I gave this 4 stars as opposed to 5, because I really did love it, but I became so engrossed in the characters and what they were doing and what was going to happen to them. And I had my own vision for how things were going to play out, that when it didn't play out the way that I really wanted it to, I was kind of marking it down. So maybe that's a good sign. I really was happy with the end, with the very end, but like there were some third act things where I was not super pleased. I really recommend this. It's coming out June 20th. You know what I haven't talked about yet? An alien romance. It's about time, right? So I'm talking about book 15.5 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. Yes, I did say 15.5. This is The Barbarian Before Christmas. It's a novella. It's actually set after the first two in the Ice Home series, so I had to read those too. It's primarily about Beck and Ellie, who we had focused on in one of the previous novels. I think this one had the most different perspectives represented in the book. The point of this, by the way, is that the Ice Planet Barbarians really want to go home for the holidays, but they can't. They still have to help the new people to the planet create their ice home on the beach far away. So there's this I'll be home for Christmas type feel where it's sort of melancholy and bittersweet, but then we have a nice reunion at the end. And it was lovely. Speaking of Ruby Dixon, let's talk about the first book in the Ice Home series, Lawrence Barbarian. There were good things and bad things about this book. It really was different from the Ice Planet Barbarians. I listened to it, and the narrators I found to be terrible. The woman narrator did all the voices of the aliens, like a cross between Dracula and Tarzan. And the male narrator sounded like the guy from Movie Phone. Do you remember Movie Phone? And if you want to hear the times for the Austin Powers movie, press 4. Also, I had a hard time. This alien is different, our hero. She finds love in his arms, in his 4 arms. No, I don't mean forearms. I mean 4 arms. And I had a hard time getting past that, quite frankly. We actually end up on the island that's been talked about on the planet quite a few times. Being on the island, I was really excited to see it, but I felt like she kind of had a missed opportunity in that I didn't get to see much of the island. I really wanted more of that, and mostly focused on the relationship between Lauren and Cathar. I liked Cathar, and I liked getting to meet all these different aliens. It was hilarious. Lauren is very funny, and I liked the love story. Several missed opportunities and narration issues left me giving this 3.5 stars. Now let's talk about one I marked at 3 stars. This is Barbarian's Tease, which is the 15th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. Yeah, I liked aspects of this book, but I had a hard time because Brooke, our heroine, keeps Taushin, our hero, very confused and whiplashed about how she feels about him and what she wants from their relationship. It starts out steamy/super awkward because they are on the alien ship and the aliens want them to make more aliens so that they can sell them. I mean, it was supposed to be really spicy, but at the same time, I'm like, this is super cringy. So anyway, they basically start out with a one-night stand that was facilitated by bad aliens. And then thankfully, of course, which we see in previous books, they get out of this bad situation, and then Taushin still thinks they're together, and Brooke is letting him know that they are not together. He whisks her away, as we've seen in several other books, in order to figure out what they're going to be. And finally, of course, they decide to be together, and it's hearts and flowers. But at the very end, they come to the beach and discover the aliens that were in stasis in the alien spaceship have been awakened by the tribe, and now they've got 20 more people, essentially, aliens and humans, that are trying to figure things out. So we've missed a huge part of the action, but action will be promised in future books. But still, it felt like a missed opportunity. Like, we've been off with these 2 clowns trying to figure out what they're gonna do when we could have been with the action. I mean, I liked it. So for my next 3-star, what more can I say about Queen Charlotte? I feel like I've beaten this to death on my channel, so I won't go too much into it. I've got some stuff linked above if you want to see more. But if I were to try to take this book and tweeze it away from the show and tweeze it away from the hype, I said 3 stars. It's sort of middle of the road for me because they're trying to help George. He's having mental health issues, and the way that he internalizes it and the way that it's treated is very upsetting and stressful and not fun at all. And there's not nearly enough romance in this book for me. Half of it is like politics and agendas with Princess Augusta and Agatha. I didn't enjoy this as much as I was hoping to. I did love seeing, as I mentioned in one of my vlogs, I loved seeing Reynolds getting his chance to shine. And also I loved that they didn't have the storyline of Agatha and Lord Ledger. I still liked the show more overall. This was my first experience with Julia Quinn, and some of the love scenes were okay, some were a little bit awkward. It sort of reminded me of Eloisa James in that way. where they make you sit through awkward love scenes or you're going, ugh, why are we doing this? Well, I finished A Wreckless Match by Kate Bateman. I wound up giving it 3 stars. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. It's a Romeo and Juliet tale. We have rival families. It reminded me a little bit of like Amanda Quick or Mary Jo Putney in that they're going into tunnels and caverns and discovering things, and there's bad guys, these smugglers. Part of her backstory is that she was struck by lightning. I feel like the author uses it just so she can say the phrases such as, well, this isn't as bad as that time I got struck by lightning, or this is just like when I got struck by lightning. It's just kind of like a weird backstory to have. A big part of this plot is her family is not doing well financially. They need a break. And his family is just fine. She is trying to get him to give her the other half of a dictionary. Her family and his family both own a half of a dictionary. And if she can get the whole thing together, she can make a boatload of money, which is just how much money they need. There's lots of references to dictionaries in this book, such as business before pleasure, just like in the dictionary, B before P. I was like, really? I felt like this was a good beginning to the series. I'm super excited to read more of Kate Bateman. But yes, I would give this book a solid C, as in, you know, the 3rd letter in the dictionary. So for my last book, this is Once Upon a Winter's Eve. So this is another Christmas book that I read in the month of May, completely randomly. This is book 1.5 in the Spindle Cove series. There were things that I loved about this book. There were things that I hated about this book. This book was narrated by Mary Jane Wells. And Mary Jane Wells doing a man's French accent. OMG, guys. I went boneless. Someone had to pick me up. I had no bones. It was so good. So good. We're not sure who our hero is. Maybe he's a spy. We don't know. But it was fun. That part was really fun. I liked that. But a lot of the story I had an issue with. She's supposed to really love him, and yet she holds him at gunpoint twice. Like 2 different times. I'm thinking as I'm reading this, what are you going to do? Are you going to shoot him while you're trying to get him to talk to you? She also beats him to a pulp at one point. And he proposes to her, but it's the worst proposal I've ever heard. He says something to the effect of, I'm proposing to you right now, but it's really cold, so let's go inside. Bonkers is what I wrote in my Goodreads review. As the gals and I were saying in the live show, that if this was not a romance novel, we never would have believed that this would have worked out well in the end. We would have assumed that this guy was bad news bears and that he would have hightailed it out of there and that she never would have seen him again. But thankfully, we do have a beautiful happily ever after that was pretty satisfying. But I will say this book was sort of all over the place for me, which is why I gave it a solid middle score of 2.5. Well, we did it. Many starts and stops, but you made it through, so thanks for hanging out with me. Those were my books for the month of May. I am deep into June already. It is the 8th as I'm filming this, and I'm already beside myself with excitement to tell you about the books that I'm reading in June. Oh my gosh, I have to wait though, but I can't wait. Let me know what you read in the month of May. Any standouts? Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.